quite familiar with the Beatitudes. Matthew has them in chapter 25, the 8 Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount. But today it's a little bit different. Luke, they come down from the mountain and they're on the plain, on the level place. And rather than having 8 Beatitudes, he has 4 Beatitudes and 4 woes. But really, it's the same thing. The Beatitudes is the ideal way for a Christian to live because it is the religion of the heart, which is important to us. We need to trust. We need to trust in God, as we're reminded in the first reading in the Psalm. Those who put their trust in the Lord will find happiness. Those who put their trust in the Lord will find what they're looking for. And that has always been the challenge, to put our trust in the Lord, to try to live the way that God wants us to live. In our faith, Christ is the center. Christ is the center. Christianity is a worldwide religion. In the last century, Mahatma Gandhi, the great liberator of India, a very serious and spiritual man, looking for ways to improve the lot of his people. So he made a thorough study of Christianity. And he was impressed with Christ. He liked a lot of things about Christian. He was in South Africa and he decided he would go to church at the Anglican church. And he went to the door of the church and the guy at the door of the church said, "You can't come in here. The church for the coloreds is down the road." So he was disillusioned. And he said something like, "I believe in Christianity, but I have trouble to find any Christians." In his autobiography, he says, "I like Christ very much, but not Christianity as it's lived out." He said, "I believe in the teaching of Jesus, but those of you on the other side of the world, in Europe and the States, you do not." He says, "I read the Bible and faithfully see little in Christianity that those who profess to be Christians see." He said, "Many people say they're spiritual and do things, but I don't see the way they're living that they're truly Christian." And he goes on to say, the Christians above all, too many of them are seeking after wealth and fame and fortune. He said, they aim to be rich at the expense of the poor. By keeping people poor, they aim to be rich. And he said, the Christians, they come among the people in Africa, in India, and what did they do? It was for their own good. They exploited people, treated people, cheated them people to enrich themselves. He says their prosperity for far more essential to them than the liberty and happiness of others. It was all about themselves, not about bringing something to others. And then he goes on to finish up by saying, Christians many times are the most warlike people. Look at all the wars they have fought, even with each other. Christianity, the gospel values, beatitudes. You know, today we're in a problem too. When I look at what's going on in the States, with Mr. Trump and his, what they call Christian nationalism, that the United States Constitution is divinely inspired by God, and to be a real American, you have to be a Christian. And he has some ideas that God has blessed them all in a unique and special way. It's frightening. It's frightening. Where it'll lead to, I don't know. But poverty in our world, the poverty that is blessed, is the poverty of those who put their trust in God, rather than the material thing. To be poor and to be hungry, there's nothing nice about that. We fight against that. The poverty of spirit is those who put their trust in their God, rather than material things. Because, as I said, only God can satisfy the hunger of the human heart. If we try to satisfy our hunger with all the other things, it won't work out. some years ago, Rudyard Kipling, the great professor at Oxford and British writer, Catholic writer, was given the graduation address at McGill University in Montreal. And he said, many of you graduating from this prestigious university will become wealthy. Many of you will become powerful. Many of you will have prestige. Then he went on to say, these things are important to you, but someday you will meet a person who doesn't care for wealth, power, or prestige. When you discover that person, then you'll realize how poor you really are. You'll end up you'll have nothing of joy in your life. Yes, to be a Christian, to live the ways of the Beatitude, it's a challenge. We are always faced in our Christian faith with a radical choice to love the values of the world, pursuit of money, pleasure, popularity, power, prestige, or to live by the values of the kingdom. Poverty of spirit, cleanness of heart, capacity to share, ability to show mercy, and to suffer for what is right. I remember when I was in Peru one time, the oligarchs, the 10 or 11 families controlled just about all the wealth and then the material. The military supported them up, and the church sometimes allied with them. And this old lady said to me one time, she said, Father, she said, they have the money, they have the guns and the power and everything. But he said, when times get tough, we have Jesus to lean on. Isn't that true? When things get going and the tough is tough, when you have nothing left, your power, your money, we come to the Beatitude. We have Jesus to trust in. We have Jesus to lean on. Jesus to lean on to satisfy the hungers that are in our heart. Because many times, the rich and comfort often leads people into, when those are our values, it leads us into, if you will, a spiritual wilderness where we lose meaning, we lose a sense of what's important. We lose our trust in God. But the gospel values will open our hunger to be satisfied. They will help us to understand the need. We're in a world where we need really a spiritual awakening. Our world needs a spiritual awakening. Many of us are asleep when it comes to the things that are spiritual. We're searching many times and looking for happiness in the wrong way. We're looking for meaning in the wrong way. And we forget to trust in God, because many times when things are difficult, He's all we have to lean on. Canada lost the hockey game last night. You didn't pray enough, huh? You didn't, huh? Uh-huh.
We have Jesus.
But you know, last weekend, did anyone watch the Super Bowl? Yeah. You know, I was watching an interesting thing at the Super Bowl. There was a man sitting there, and then there was an empty seat, and a woman sitting over there. Started the second half, and the man turns to the woman, and he says, Holy Moses, I'm so amazed that there's an empty seat. You know, the cheapest seat here was $4,000. Could have got a lot of money for it. And she says, it belonged to my husband, but the poor man died. And she says, well, I thought one of your children or one of your friends or relatives would have taken the seat and come. She said, so did I, but they all insisted on going to his funeral.